Once again, Talladega gave us plenty to talk about. Disaster at the finish for Hendrick Motorsports, confusion over at Team Penske, and don't look now, but Joe Gibbs Racing now owns at least half of the championship four. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Tableau TV. Pay once, watch forever. For some reason, NASCAR moved Talladega later in the year, later into October, into the round of 8, the penultimate round of the NASCAR playoffs. Wouldn't have been my first choice, or second, third, or fourth choice, frankly. But regardless, it was up to the top NASCAR Cup Series teams and drivers to navigate the high banks safely this afternoon. Some fared better than others. We'll break everything down in this episode. Beginning with the finish. Overtime. William Byron, Kyle Larson, Hendrick Motorsports teammates 1-2, rather than line up with each other, they choose to take over the entire front row. I actually thought this was a genius decision because if you remember how the spring Talladega race ended, it was gridlock. It was Preece and Cindric on the front row. It was actually the Hendrick cars right behind him who couldn't go anywhere. 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. If you could lock down that front row, you would likely lock down the top two finishing positions. I thought it was a great move from Hendrick, but then when Kyle Larson got the lead, he dropped down in front of Byron, which allowed Bubba Wallace and the Toyotas to take over the top side. Ultimately, that decision by Kyle Larson didn't really matter because on the final lap, he runs out of fuel, stacks up the inside lane, lets the Toyotas battle amongst themselves. That opened the door for Chase Briscoe to make a move to the inside of Bubba Wallace. Ty Gibbs ultimately, somewhat reluctantly, went with them. Gibbs pushed Briscoe, clear to the lead. Chase Briscoe gets his third win of the season, his second win of these playoffs. What a dream season for Chase Briscoe. His first year with Joe Gibbs Racing. Coming into the year, there was pressure on Briscoe. Yeah, he looked great in the Xfinity Series, won like 9 races back in the COVID year, but Stewart-Haas Racing, obviously at the end he didn't have a ton to work with, showed flashes like that Southern 500 win last year, but how good really is Chase Briscoe? Can he cut it with one of the top teams in the Cup Series? James Small, his crew chief, winless 2 of the last 3 years with future Hall of Famer Martin Truex Jr. Is James Small the right guy for this job? Well, I think both men have silenced the critics this year. 3 wins on the season, a phenomenal playoff run. 8 races into these playoffs, Chase Briscoe's worst finish is 14th. He has an average finish of, 5.6. Dude is nearly averaging a top 5 in these playoffs. Unbelievable performance these past few weeks by Chase Briscoe. Great strategy calls by James Small. Execution on pit road. Even today, I think Briscoe sped on pit road. They were able to overcome that penalty to not only win a stage, but win the ultimate race and lock themselves into the championship 4 at Phoenix. First year together, and Chase Briscoe and James Small will be vying for a Cup Series championship in less than 2 weeks. Absolutely deserving, in my opinion. If you look at where Chase Briscoe ranks in some broader full season stats even, he's got the most top 5s of anyone in Cup this year. 3rd most top 10s, 3rd most laps led, tied for the 4th most wins this year. Every broad metric paints Chase Briscoe as a legit championship 4 contender. Congratulations to Briscoe and congratulations to Joe Gibbs Racing. Denny Hamlin 1 week ago at Las Vegas, Chase Briscoe today at Talladega. After missing the championship 4 entirely 1 season ago, JGR now is guaranteed at least half of this year's Final 4 spots. And we'll look at the points in a few minutes. Christopher Bell in a pretty decent position himself. We could realistically see 3 Joe Gibbs cars in the championship 4. What a turnaround again from 1 season ago when Tyler Reddick 2311 was the lone Toyota representative. Huge turnaround for Joe Gibbs Racing as an organization. They've had a tremendous playoffs. Chase Briscoe specifically, first year with the team, first year in the 19 with Bass Pro Shops. What a tremendous season for Briscoe as well. He's so easy to root for. I'm super happy for him. Glad to see Briscoe be rewarded for all these years of hard work. Now, real quick, before we focus on how the playoff teams performed, let's take a look at the top finishers. I've got a few shout outs. Best career finish for Todd Gilliland, P2 for the Front Row Motorsports driver, led 16 laps, earned stage points as well. He didn't have a lot of friends at the front of the field either. Like Zane Smith popped up briefly at one point, but Noah Gragson was caught up in a crash in stage 1, so he kind of latched himself onto whichever Ford freight train he could find, but for the most part, Todd Gilliland doing it on his own. Great result. Ty Gibbs. Been a difficult season for Ty Gibbs, well documented. Third for Ty, gave his teammate Chase Briscoe the winning push at the end. Strong top 5 finish for Bubba Wallace. I believe this is back-to-back super speedway top 5s for Cole Custer, who almost pulled off the upset at Daytona a few weeks back. Great result for Haas Factory Team. I want to give Carson Hocevar a shout out. 6th place, also earned 10 stage points today. That's pretty impressive. The front bumper of the 77 certainly got some use today. Final lap, inside lane stacked up. Byron goes spinning off the front of Hocevar's car. You're a couple hundred yards from the checkered flag. I don't see Hocevar lifting there. I don't think he did anything wrong. And then before overtime, Hocevar was again into the back of William Byron, who then got into the back of Chris Buescher and sent Buescher spinning from the lead. But Hocevar had, I think it was Ty Gibbs all over his rear bumper, maybe Suarez behind it. Again, just a stack up gone wrong. Young drivers giving it everything they've got at the end. Carson Hocevar in the middle of the hurricane, as usual. Nice top 10 for Zane Smith. Brad Keselowski overcame a pit road issue of his own to score a top 10. Shane Van Gisbergen. I know it's a super speedway, but the man continues to get solid oval track results. 11th. All 3 Trackhouse cars lined up right there. And then I'll also mention John Hunter Nemechek, 14th place, not amazing, but he too earned 10 stage points tonight. Felt that was worth a shout out. But okay, you saw the top finishers, not many names highlighted in yellow. It was a topsy-turvy day for the playoff contenders. Talladega drafting races are all about teamwork. We saw the JGR cars of Gibbs and Briscoe push each other to the lead at the end. So let's kind of sort of go team by team, beginning with, let's just start at the finish. Hendrick Motorsports. They were 1-2 going into overtime. NBC interviewed Cliff Daniels during the caution period, and he's like, yeah, we're good for 1 overtime. I might want to check your math there, Cliff. Kyle Larson stumbles down the back straightaway. He did earn 9 stage points today. Good result at Las Vegas a week ago. He was in a good points position coming in. He's still in a good points position coming out. But man, is he ever going to win one of these super speedway races? 400th start today. I thought maybe there was magic in the air. William Byron is the driver I really want to circle there at the end, because he entered this race only 15 points out. You can make up 15 points in 2 races. And William Byron did okay in the stages. He earned 7 stage points. We talked about the decision at the end there. Hendrick, with their 2 playoff drivers, opted not to line up together. Instead, they decided to own the front row. Kyle Larson lined up with, I think, one of the better super speedway racers behind him in Bubba Wallace, while William Byron lined up with Carson Hocevar, whose front bumper, as we discussed, got some use today. Young, hungry, fast, not quite as experienced of a pusher as Bubba Wallace. Maybe that made all the difference. I mean, that was the difference for William Byron. Larson got the better push, was able to clear Byron, drop down in front. If that doesn't happen, if Byron clears Larson and is able to move up in front of Kyle, or at least isn't stuck behind Kyle when the 5 car runs out of gas, maybe that's William Byron leading the field out of turn 4 on the final lap. Instead, he's in the hornet's nest, goes spinning. I believe they scored Byron 25th at the end of this race, so that spin cost him close to 20 points probably. Very unfortunate. It's been a very unfortunate round for William Byron. Last week had a top 5 car, gets caught up in the Ty Dillon pit road miscommunication mishap. That was hideous. Today, Byron had the lead going into overtime, 25th. Ugh, huge bummer for sure, especially because these last 2 weeks, they've turned it up a notch. Remember the first 5-6 races of the playoffs, I pointed out, hey, Byron hasn't led a single lap. And even now, if I look, Byron has 1 top 5 finish the last 10 races? Like, they didn't really look like a championship contending team until the last couple of weeks, and they made it to the round of 8. They got a shot. And I mean, they still have a shot. They could go win Martinsville. They've won there before, but like back-to-back weeks, they had the speed, had the win within their grasp, and to have it slip away, yeah, no other way to say it. Just a huge bummer. Not involved at the finish, but since we're going team by team, I'll talk next about Chase Elliott. Big crash, some huge impacts in stage 1. Eric Jones turned Noah Gragson heading into turn 3 in front of the pack. Allmendinger hits the wall hard. Allmendinger had the wind knocked out of him, was on his back laying on the apron for a few moments with the safety crews before getting up and walking to the ambulance on his own. Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon got damage in this, and so did Chase Elliott. The front end completely destroyed, to the garage, out of the race. No opportunity to earn stage points or anything, just a huge blow to Chase Elliott's championship hopes. Now, he entered this race minus 23. He began this round, 14, 15 points in the hole to start? Last week, it was a big mistake on pit road that put them behind. They got damaged, bad finish. Today, I guess you could say that the Hendrick cars did not get on and off pit road, that first green flag cycle, as cleanly as the Toyotas and Fords did. There's a reason Elliott and his teammates were that far back in the pack in the danger zone. But also, I mean, looking at where that wreck started, it started up there at the front. There really was no safe spot there. Still, bad situation for Chase Elliott to be in, but I guess if there's a silver lining, as Elliott put it post-race, the assignment at Martinsville is simple. Only one thing's on his mind: go win that race. And he very well could. Chase Elliott's last 3 Martinsville finishes, 4th, 2nd, and 3rd. He's led 40 or more laps in 7 of the last 8 Martinsville races. He's a really good short track racer. He's been good with those softer Goodyear tires this year. I wouldn't count out Chase Elliott, but they're going to need to make some magic happen 1 week from today. But now let's move on. We'll look at the points in a moment. We've talked about Joe Gibbs Racing. We've talked about Hendrick Motorsports. Now let's talk Team Penske. Las Vegas was not kind to Team Penske. Ryan Blaney blew another tire, DNF, and Joey Logano was unable to dig himself out of his 24-point hole. All eyes were on Talladega. Team Penske had won 2 of the first 3 traditional superspeedway races this year. Joey Logano, entering today, 228 laps led on drafting tracks this season, by far the most in the Cup Series. Even if they didn't win, the expectation was that Logano, Blaney, throw Cindric, throw Josh Berry into the mix, they would control most of this race. Lead laps, get stage points. No matter what happened at the finish, the Penske cars would close that gap heading into Martinsville. That was the expectation. That was not reality. Joey Logano finished 16th today, Ryan Blaney 23rd. More surprising though, Joey Logano earned only 5 stage points, which only ranked him 6th of the 8 playoff drivers. 5 playoff drivers out-earned Joey Logano in the stages today. That's unbelievable. And it wasn't because of a wreck or a penalty or anything like that. It was just situational, I guess. In stage 2, Joey Logano did not pit under green with his teammates. He was stuck in the outside lane, he said, could not get down in time, and running that extra lap cost him. Shane Van Gisbergen slipped in some of the weepers there on the apron, spun out, got stuck in the grass. Caution is out. Joey Logano had to come to pit road under caution, lost all of his track position, didn't earn points in stage 2, and were at a fuel disadvantage entering stage 3. Their cars were fast, as usual. I'll give them that. In fact, most of stage 3, it was Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, 1-2, leading the inside lane with fellow Ford teammates, all from RFK Racing, 3, 4, 5. The usual super speedway suspects controlled most of the final stage today until caution. With 23 laps to go, Cody Ware slipped in his own oil, brings out the yellow. Everyone makes their final pit stop. Ryan Blaney came out with the lead. Suddenly, instead of Logano-Blaney, it was Blaney-Logano, restart, 17 laps to go. They lined up on the inside, but it was Todd Gilliland, who again finished second today, who got the run on the outside, cleared them for the lead, and then 3 and 4 wide, the pack shuffled once, shuffled twice, shuffled 3, 4, 5 times in the closing laps, And suddenly Joey Logano, I look up, is in the very back of the pack. Slowly but surely, again, situationally, the Penske cars lost control of this race. They lost all of their track position and were forced to play catch up there at the end. Blaney asks, how did we lose control of this race? How is it possible? To me, I think it goes back to that restart with 17 laps to go. Blaney, Logano chose the inside lane and lost to Kyle Larson pushing Todd Gilliland. I mean, that's where the race ended for them. As soon as Todd Gilliland dropped to the inside in front of Blaney, the Penske cars no longer controlled their lane. And because they were on the inside, sort of pinched against that double yellow line, they couldn't really go anywhere. And in the final laps, fuel wasn't a huge concern, at least at that point. So everyone's going 100%. Everyone was just going as hard as they could. There was no space for Logano or Blaney to operate, to change lanes, to make a move. So all they could do was watch as the middle and outside lanes formed up better, generated huge runs, and the 12 and 22 slipped further and further behind. It all came down to that 17 to go restart. Gilliland and Larson stuck together somehow better than Blaney and Logano did. We do know the Penske cars, I think all of them at some point today radioed about a gear oil issue, that it was overheating. Steve Letarte on the broadcast mentioned that the teams are able to control how they funnel air to cool that part of the car. You wonder if maybe Penske thought they had found a slight aero advantage there, but it kind of blew up in their face. I mean, it literally blew up on Josh Berry. He ended this race in the garage with that issue. Logano battled it all day. Who's to say? Did that play a role in how they got up to speed on that 17 to go restart? Is that part of why they were beat by the 34 and the 5? I'm sure the engineers know. I don't. I should have showed you all this a while ago, but here are the points heading into Martinsville next week. Will be a cutoff race. Hamlin and Briscoe good to go with wins. Their teammate Christopher Bell in a decent spot. Kyle Larson plus 36. If one of these guys at the bottom wins, that'll shake things up. Then it's really tight between Bell and Larson, for example, but more than likely, Byron, Logano, Blaney, Elliott, they're going to need to win Martinsville to make the championship four. Like Chase Elliott said, the assignment is simple. But gosh, if you're Joey Logano, 10 more stage points and, a top 5 finish, that could be 20 more points. Minus 15, minus 16, you're within striking distance at that point, but that's not what happened. Chase Elliott's the only driver mathematically in a must-win, but Blaney, Logano, even William Byron, yeah, they need to be eyeing that grandfather clock. Pretty crazy, though. All the talk, especially this fall, about Team Penske and how good they are at the short flat tracks like Phoenix. Are the Penske Fords inevitable? Are they going to win 4 championships in a row? All of that talk, all of that chatter, and now at best, they may get 1 car into the championship 4. At best. Ryan Blaney has won Fall Martinsville 2 years in a row. So again, I hesitate to count these guys out, especially the 12. But today, for sure, was underwhelming from a stage points perspective and obviously a finish perspective. I feel like I'm kind of bouncing all over the place here. I guess that's Talladega. Let's put this race on the Groovy gauge. The Groovy gauge is powered by Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to find a ride that suits you. As next-gen super speedway races go, I thought this one was decent. Yes, they still would spend the first 30 to 40 laps of a stage saving fuel primarily. Only the final 20 laps would they be really going for it. And that's typically when we saw, wrecks. That's when we saw the Gregson spin, Allmendinger crash. That's when the Chris Buescher wreck happened there to set up overtime. But at least when they were fuel saving, there were 3 to 4 lanes. Guys could choose to push the pace and work their way up towards the front. I found it fascinating how fast the Team Penske Fords were, yet we're still getting pretty good fuel mileage. Finish was exciting. I'm glad it didn't drag. We didn't have to go to double, triple, quadruple overtime. And, it was a fun finish. We knew the fuel was going to be close. Didn't know it was going to be that close. Kyle Larson stumbles. The Toyota teammates, once again, settle it amongst themselves. This time it went a little better than last time that we saw at Kansas a few weeks back. Deserving winner in my eyes. I mean, Briscoe was in the picture all day. He qualified second, won stage 2, wins the race. It's not like he came out of nowhere and stole this from someone more deserving. No, they were in the picture all afternoon. They deserve the win. They deserve the championship 4 spot in my eyes. I thought this was a pretty decent race. Didn't tear up 30 cars. I mean, I'll go 80%. Yeah, I actually thought this was a very good super speedway race, especially considering the limitations of the next-gen car. At least even towards the end, before overtime at least, a third lane was able to get going and make some moves, which in years past we haven't always seen with this car. Sometimes they're stuck at 2x2 and it's not very fun to watch. I'll go 80% for the Yellowwood 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. Let me know what you thought of today's race down in the comment section below. A few other notes. Denny Hamlin clinched a spot in the championship four via last week's victory at Las Vegas. They were up near the front, battling for the lead late in this race today, but before overtime, had an issue with the throttle, it sounded like. They had debris in the throttle body. The throttle was sticking. It's not the first time Hamlin has dealt with that issue this year. And we remember a couple weeks ago at Kansas, power steering was failing on him. Actually, in this race as well, I think, didn't he complain about like the clutch? Or was it an issue with the starter? I made a note of it. The starter issue? Yeah, so he had 2 or 3 mechanical issues in today's race alone on the heels of that Kansas debacle. So yeah, it led to a clip over the radio of Denny Hamlin saying, quote, "We've got to get our bleep together at the shop to keep our cars from breaking down." Yeah, I mean, doesn't make a huge difference this week or next week, but at Phoenix, goodness gracious, can you imagine if Denny Hamlin loses the championship because of some sort of mechanical issue? I mean, it bit Joe Gibbs Racing a couple of years ago, right? Didn't Christopher Bell have a brake failure in the championship race? So yeah, I don't blame Denny Hamlin for being concerned there. One other non-playoff related note, Ty Dillon for the second straight week made the highlight reel for all the wrong reasons. This time it was under caution late in stage 2. Ty Dillon on pit road tries to go around Josh Berry, who's parked in his box. There's someone working on Berry's right rear under the car. There's a tire sitting there that Ty Dillon just drives through. That tire actually clips the rear changer, the crew member's legs, who was under the car. You see the other crew member there is like furious with Ty Dillon. Like, what are you doing? He was literally standing there to kind of help direct Ty around the tire and the crew member, and Ty just ignored him. Bozy Tatarovich, who's a IMSA mechanic, he's been on pit road before, posted this clip and said, "Just an atrocious move from Ty Dillon here. Absolutely no need to hit that tire." He also went to the in-car and pointed out that the tire is clearly visible from the in-car. So yeah, I mean, I get that maybe that's hard to see. I think the crew member standing there pointing like a traffic crossing guard, I don't think he's hard to see, but another breakdown in communication. Who's getting fired this week for this mistake? It was the spotter last week. Who's the scapegoat this time? I don't know, man. Ty Dillon is a likable guy. He doesn't strike me as the type to be hot-headed, to act recklessly like that for no reason. So maybe he just wasn't paying attention. Maybe there was poor communication back and forth. I don't know. I hate using poor communication as the excuse every week, because that's 2 weeks in a row now. Ty Dillon, again, has been part of, not the high, let's call it the low light reel, 2 weeks in a row for the 10 car. Anyway, just a couple other notes I wanted to touch on before we wrap things up here, but that is going to do it for today's episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel and love all things NASCAR. We talk NASCAR daily here on Out of the Groove. You're in the right place. And a big thank you to my very generous Patreon supporters for going above and beyond to support the show. Have a great rest of your weekend, y'all. A great start to the new week. I will talk to you again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.